have you ever been put in a position where you had to care about somebody else more than you actually cared about yourself or your own self-worth or your own self-being? Because scripture says, Matthews 37 through 39, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like this one, love your neighbors as yourself. She was put in a position where her husband had cancer, and she had to just sacrifice everything that she knew and was doing and that he was doing in order to make sure he was in a position where he could be at his best. And she was there for him. She loved on him. They're still going through, and she is still there. She is stuck by his side. And so this is a true example of loving someone else more than you actually love yourself. Because a lot of times in her relationship, she has had to make the sacrifice. And so let's listen to her on her journey. And not only, let me just say this, not only is she sacrificing that, she has created a lot of information that she's also given away because you know what? She loves her neighbor as herself, and she doesn't want anybody else to go through what she went through without having the information that she gathered from the whole process. So let's join her as she talks about her journey with Christ and dealing with her husband's cancer.
So we want to welcome you today to Beginner's Guide to Christianity, where we help strengthen your relationship with God, learn to hear God's voice, and develop a stronger faith through a better understanding of Christian principles, terminology, and prayer. I'm your host, Lisa Keaton, and we want to welcome Ammie Dover with us here today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. So Ammie is an entrepreneur, and she's also a cancer survivor caregiver. Her husband, Jose, had cancer, and so she had to step into this new role on top of being an entrepreneur. So we're going to let Ammie tell you a little bit about her story.
So no one is prepared, first and foremost, for the words you have cancer. And no one is really prepared from a health perspective, from a mental capacity perspective, and also from the way that it impacts the rest of your life and your business. Jose and I both have businesses separate, like we came into the relationship with businesses that were separate.
Oh, wow.
And we work well together, and we combine things. Like, us through Jose's business.
Yes.
That's not my brainchild, although I've all but taken over, right? Lovingly. When we heard that he had cancer, it really came from a persistent cough. So he went to primary care, and they said, here's some antibiotics, take this for 10 days. And it seemed to work because it really masked, it had a steroid in it, and it kind of masked the symptoms. And so he thought he was getting better. And then when we realized that he really wasn't getting any better, we had to go in for chest x-rays and then go see a pulmonologist because he had a mass on his right lung that was almost like there was a little bitty rim around the lung that was not taken over by this mass. And thankfully he didn't see that.
Right.
He was downstairs coming out of anesthesia when the doctor showed it to me, and I was like, okay, this is really real. But at that point, we didn't know if it was lung cancer or, because it took over so much of his lung. It turned out that it was stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he not only had cancer in his lung there, but he also had in his lymph nodes in his neck.
Oh, wow.
And also, it had spread to his spleen. And so you really think about that, and it's an invasive cancer, right?
Yes.
It takes over, and it runs through your whole body. Lymphoma is a blood cancer, and so that runs through your entire body, through your lymph nodes, which are infected, if you will.
Right.
And so from that perspective, it was, okay, what do we do? Like, we don't even know what questions to ask. We're stammering. Like, Jose is glassed over. He has no idea what the doctor is saying. And then somehow I'm like, all right, let's ask all the hard questions and see how much I can take and see how we can create a plan moving forward. We were very fortunate in the beginning to think that he was in remission after 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, crazy, right? Now, 3 years later, we're still dealing with this nonsense. So this is a bit of a long story. But after the first 2 months of treatment, they do a scan, and we heard that cancer's pretty much gone. We're just going to finish the chemo treatments. Dude, you're in remission.
Wow,
right?
that's great.
Right. We're thank God. We're like ready to start planning our lives. We're moving forward from this very quickly. And then once he finished his treatments, 4 months later, you do about a 30-day wait, and then they do another set of scans.
Okay.
In that second set of scans, the cancer is back. And not just back, but at stage 4 again. It's already everywhere that fast.
Wow.
So standard treatment was not in the cards for us at that point. It hadn't worked. We were in a trial. We had to quit the trial early because that particular drug was giving him too many side effects that are permanent.
Oh, wow.
So he could have lost the usage of his feet and hands and potentially his legs if he would have continued.
Okay.
And he battles with the life that if you see him sometimes, if he's sitting down for a long period of time, he gets up like a 90-year-old man.
Oh,
because his feet are numb and he has to like feel the floor before he can start stepping forward. Yeah. And so, the standard treatment didn't work. We were referred to Emory for a stem cell transplant. And this is where they extracted his blood, cleaned it up, if you will. They scrubbed his blood, removed all of the cancerous cells that they could find, sent him through multiple rounds of inpatient chemo, and then gave him his blood back.
Okay.
And so he was in the hospital for 3 weeks for that stem cell transplant. We had to stay, thankfully, through the Hope Lodge, right? That's a blessing in and of itself. Let me tell you about that. It's free lodging. They don't ask you what your income is. They don't ask you what your cancer, what your issues are. You have to have, through the cancer center, Emory gives you a social worker for every patient, regardless of income or situation. And so from that perspective, if you are so many miles away from home and your stay at the hospital is so long, then you have a free place to stay with the American Cancer Lodge.
That's great.
The American Cancer Society. Yeah. And so we were very fortunate on that. I mean, we racked up almost a $10,000 bill in lodging. That was absolutely free.
Because if you're going through all these tests with him, because you're there with him, you're on site with him, you watching him, you see what he's going through. This is your husband. What's going through your mind? How did your faith kick in with what you were going through?
I mean, it's honestly, you have to lean on it, but it's also a scary situation because we know that good things happen or bad things happen to good people.
Yes.
And we know that just because we pray for a resolution, that it's not granted to us because our stories are already written.
Right.
And we don't know the end of that story yet. So this might be the end of our story.
Right.
We don't know.
So all those things are running through your head, huh?
Every day. Every day. Lisa, I used to, because it was his lungs, like I would lay in bed and I'd just lay my hand on him.
Right.
And he'd be laying there sleeping. I just lay my hand on his chest and just pray. I'm like, and we listen. You asked me earlier, like how faith kind of started in my life, and I grew up with a Pentecostal grandma, so like I was laying hands on people before I even knew how to really pray. My nanny used to tell me, because she suffers from migraines, and so do I. Like I got the blessing of that, right? And so she would be like, "Oh, well, Nanny has a headache," and I would just come over and lay my hands on her, and I'd just pray that her headache would go away. I'd be like 3 years old. I had no idea.
Right. They sound like faith.
Right. So there were many nights that I laid there in bed beside him and just laid my hands on him and just prayed. And, you know, when you say that prayer, I selfishly want it to be answered.
Yes.
But we also know that we have to pray for God's will.
That's true.
And then the acceptance of that from our side as well.
And that is very hard to accept his will and to pray his will, because of course we as humans, want our way.
Of course.
But you don't
I want my man back. Like that's my partner in crime. We got plans.
But thank God that he worked it out your way.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But thank God he's still here with us, and he's still mobile and he's still moving. But let's get back to your story, because you were talking about, the Hope Center and being able to stay there, and just being a blessing.
Right. It was a huge blessing because, the people who are making donations to the American Cancer Society don't always know who their donations are going to benefit, and they benefit the average person. We didn't know that. Listen, I worked with the American Cancer Society in Baltimore years prior as a corporate sponsor of their Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk, and had toured the Hope Lodge in Baltimore as part of my walk with them as a corporate sponsor and as a community leader. I had no idea 15, 20 years later, I would be a recipient of that care.
That's scary, huh?
Right. It's incredibly scary.
You, and you didn't even know you was being prepared.
Exactly. So I knew what the Hope Lodge was about. I knew, how they function for the most part. And I knew the benefit and the blessing that it could be. And I'm telling you, I think we were like $200 short of racking up a $10,000 bill on lodging stays for his treatments.
Thank God for them.
Oh, without a doubt. Yes. Yes.
So one of the things that you wanted to talk about really was about your care that you received from the doctors and from the support kind of aspect of what you guys went through.
Yeah, so we had two different sets of oncologists. We had our initial oncologist, which is just a general oncologist, if you will, right? And then once we finished that first round of treatment, that particular cancer center was not equipped for the stem cell transplant. And so that's how we got the referral to the second oncologist. And they could not have been more different if they tried. The first one was not a good experience, and the second one ran like a well-oiled machine. The first cancer center, when we first got our diagnosis and we come in for the first couple of meetings, right? No one walked us around the cancer center. No one explained what was going to happen. There was no social worker. There was no mental health questions whatsoever. We didn't get a single pamphlet and not a sheet of paper. The only meeting that we ever had, not with a dietitian or a mental health professional, was the finance department. Can you pay the bill?
That's
so that didn't go over real well with this household at all.
Right.
To the point of like appointments would get canceled and treatment like delayed, all kinds of things. And mind you, we are working with stage 4 cancer. There's no stage 5.
Right. This is it. This is it.
So
you go get it. So you went.
The only way that I can say this is like, don't get in my way when I'm on a mission for something, and saving that man's life was my mission.
Right.
And so I literally talked with our oncologist, who also was the owner of our cancer center. He was one of the co-owners of the cancer center. So it was the decision maker. Well, what people don't realize in the cancer world is that they are part of a bigger conglomerate. So chemo and all the drugs that they need to buy are too expensive for the small business. And cancer centers in the cancer world are usually considered a small business. They're not a hospital, they're a standalone cancer center. The hospital subcontracts to the cancer center.
Okay.
So, and most people don't understand this because when you walk into the building, you're walking into the hospital's name at the top of the building, not the cancer center's name. Right? So they don't understand this. Well, inside of that conglomerate, they have an operation that purchases all of their treatments in bulk for many cancer centers. They run all of their staffing for them. They run their website. They run their marketing. They run everything except the physical treatment of the patient.
Okay.
Now, the doctor in and of itself in that first cancer center, he's amazing, like totally amazing. He knows what he's doing. He's a professional. He was caring. He knows his stuff. The rest of the facility, I was not accepted. So I sat down and chatted with him. I was like, you have a really big problem. And I'm going to put this into perspective because I'm going to go back to that stage 4.
Right.
There's no stage 5. You're killing me. You took an oath to do no harm.
Right.
And you have this business that is not functioning, that is doing physical harm.
Right.
That's a problem. That's a problem, and one that I'm not willing to accept. And I am able-bodied, of sound mind. I'm a business professional. I've done a lot of really cool things in my business life. I know how the operations should work.
Yes.
Right. And so you sit in that lobby. Jose is relatively young to be getting cancer.
Right.
The average cancer patient is in their early 60s for the first diagnosis, on average, not always true, but on average. And so, he was in his late 40s.
Okay.
So he's relatively young in this process. And sitting in the lobby at that cancer center, you see a lot of elderly people.
Yes.
Who don't know technology, who don't know the process, who aren't as assertive as I am, and so they're sitting there taking the cancer center's word at face value.
Wow.
For their care.
Right.
And I have a problem with that because if you don't step into that role and take their care into consideration for every action that you're taking, you don't deserve to be here in this center. You don't deserve this job. Go get another one.
That's true.
Go get another job.
Because we should be serving each other in love, especially when you're in a hospital setting and you're dealing with people's loved ones, or you're dealing with just people in general. It should be a very good environment, or a welcoming environment, a knowledgeable environment, somewhere where you can feel comfortable to even approach people to get answers. So they weren't open like that? Do you get...
Not at all. Not at all. It was the runaround. You would call many times. They created a situation to where the patient really had to learn what their roles and responsibilities were in order to make them do their job. I don't have time for that. We got 2 businesses to run, and this man has cancer.
Right.
My time, my patience, my health, my everything is limited at this point. And it's just not, it's not fair. And I know that life isn't fair, but you signed up for that job. So here's what it entails. Do it or move on. Like, to the point that there was another patient in the lobby one day that he lived in an assisted living facility and he was blind.
No.
And somehow he messed up his transit to get home. He could not get home.
Right.
This is a man that does not have money for a cab or Uber. He does not know how to navigate the system. He's blind and he relies on this assisted living program and his scheduled bus rides, his scheduled van rides, if you will. And the center is sitting there, well, who can you call? He's like, I don't have any family. Well, who can you call? I was like, if you ask that man one more time who he can call, he just told you he doesn't have anyone.
Family.
You can't pull into your purse strings. You don't have a slush fund of some sort to get this man a cab to get him home or something.
Right.
We paid for his Uber.
Oh, wow. Because they had to be in place.
They didn't have a process in place for any kind of emergency, and they were dealing with this in the lobby with other patients hearing such a sensitive topic.
Oh, wow.
Inappropriate. So we ended up paying for his Uber, and Uber's funny because, listen, if I put somebody in the Uber that's not me, I can get my stars knocked out. I got a 5-star rating on Uber. I tried to keep it. I go outside with him and I talked to the Uber driver and I said, hey, this is the situation. I'm sorry. I don't know how to call you through Uber, and he's like, no. It's totally fine. I'll take him. No worries whatsoever.
Right.
And then he sent me a message after the fact and he was like, you are such a blessing to this man. And thank you for including me in this blessing. I'm happy to do it. Best of luck to all of you.
You have some really good people out there in the world. I know we on the news and different things we hear about all the bad stuff, but there are really and truly some good people in the world that are willing to help, and we just need to reach those people. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about was you talked about resources and not having anything available to you to even guide you through this process, but you put something together, right?
I did. I just kind of operate in the mindset of, one, it's therapeutic for me to really get it out of my head and to not fester. I don't want to focus on the negative because the negative only hurts me.
Yes.
Right? And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. Like when you have a really bad situation and you let that just kind of fester and you constantly think about it or you're complaining about it to other people, that only hurts you. It doesn't hurt the people that harmed you or that did the wrongdoing. It only hurts you. And so knowing, what our background and capabilities are, I have a background in business operations and project management, and Jose is digital media, web design, marketing, all of those things. And so I said, hey, I want to put together a podcast or, something. I didn't even know what it was in the beginning. I was like, I just have to do something. Even if just sharing our story is the blessing that we give. Someone will benefit from our story. I don't know who it is, and it's not my responsibility to even figure that out. My responsibility is to put it out there.
Right.
And so we started a podcast. I want to say it's like 8 or 9 countries in like the first week. Somebody was listening and I was like, what? Like, we're not advertising. We have no budget for this. We're doing it on a shoestring budget. And so we were just putting it out there and whoever found it, found it. It's still not a business. I still don't make any money from it. That's never the purpose of it. But in that, when we're talking about the hurdles that we had and the ways that we were overcoming them, one of the biggest issues was that the first cancer center did not give us a how-to guide, if you will, like an action plan. Now, the second one did. They did an amazing job. I got a 3-ring binder that's full of everything because it's a stem cell transplant. And so, there were things leading up to it. We had shots, we had a surgery, we had inpatient chemo, we had health issues, we had a whole list of things that we had to buy that we were not allowed to bring into the hospital. Bring opened soap into that hospital.
No.
It could have bacteria in it. Everything you needed was brand new. Just simple things that I don't know that. Like even telling you don't know that. Why would you know that?
I wouldn't.
Right. So that's the kind of level of knowledge that I expected from the first cancer center.
Yes.
Tell me what I need to know. Don't let me find out these things the hard way, because we're fighting for his life and we're fighting to run our businesses on a condensed schedule.
Yes.
I don't have 68 hours in a week at this point. Jose barely has 10, 15 at this point.
Right.
And this is our livelihood. So I tell folks too, and I'll get back to the resources in a second, but when you really break down the difference between like the cancer patient, besides the medical part, but the cancer patient and the cancer caregiver, I always say that Jose, his job was to fight for his life.
Right.
I can't do that for him beyond prayer and beyond keeping the house clean and keeping him fed. Like I can't do that for him.
That's true.
So his job is to fight for his life. My job was to fight to keep our life together.
Okay.
That's what a cancer caregiver does.
Right. And in that you have patience, it takes a lot, and it takes a wear and tear on your body to be that caregiver. It's not an easy job. It takes a lot of love, a lot of patience, a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, a lot of, if he's having a bad day, you can't have a bad day too, because he's having a bad day. You gotta be, that encourager. You gotta be that person who lifts him up, make sure he's comfortable. And so it was a lot. So did you get help? Did you have help, outside help?
Some.
So, okay.
The help that we did have was amazing. What I would say is I don't think any cancer caregiver would ever tell you that they've had enough help.
Okay.
Right? In the beginning, people rally. Like I had my book club girls, they were amazing. They like, as soon as I said Jose has cancer, they brought over bags of like care package stuff for me, not for Jose, for me.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they threw out with, my biggest ask, and it's so funny, but people would be like, how can I help? Let me know if you need anything. I'm like, send food, dinner, gift card, Publix gift card. I don't care. Like something so that I don't have to cook, because when the patient is going through this, they have, what works one day won't work the next day. What they'll eat one day they won't eat the next day. And I don't have time to run two businesses, worry about his health, my health, and be a short cook, honey. No, ma'am. Okay. No, ma'am. So I would tell people all the time, hey, and I have, one person who has consistently sent a Publix gift card, and I can go get some hot food from Publix. And that's amazing. And so, yes, I did have some help. No, it was not enough. And I don't think that any caregiver will ever tell you that they get enough.
Did you have anybody come and give you like a break? Just say, you know what, just go do something. Or could you even do it? Because sometimes people will come and say, hey, you know what, I want to give you a break. Go take care of yourself. Go get your hair done, your nails done. Go do something for you. But then you're so worried and focused on like, I don't really want to leave him like that. Because
there were a couple of instances. Yeah, I had one girlfriend who just my Venmo pinged, and she's like, go get out of the house. I don't care what you do. Go get your nails done. Go get a massage. Go do something. And so that was a blessing. But in general, no, because everything in the household is so tight at that point.
Right.
I'm counting every penny. We're watching everything because I don't have a job. Like, if I don't make it, it doesn't get made.
Right.
So, you're watching every single thing, and those things. A lot of caregivers don't prioritize them as much as they should. Now, I should have prioritized them. And part of the resources that we did create was a caregiver action plan and a self-care planner. And the self-care planner really focuses on one, gratitude. So there's a gratitude journal on our resource page as well, because I do feel like there are many blessings all around you that when you're in the throes of it and life is really beating you down, it's hard to see.
Yes, true.
So I really kind of walk you through areas to look for opportunities to be grateful. And I'm a firm believer that when you look for opportunities to be grateful, opportunities arise.
That's true.
Yeah. So, and we live in an area that we're around water, and I do it still today. And this is so funny that every time I would pass water, I would just say thank you.
Okay.
Because it's so calming.
Yes, I love water too.
Right. Yeah. It's so peaceful and just, in awe of what God can create.
Yes.
I just say thank you when I go over a bridge or water, and I still do that. And I started that during cancer.
And that's good because water is calming and it's very relaxing. And God has created so many wonderful things in this world and in this earth. And an attitude of gratitude is wonderful. Yes. And we are grateful. We're grateful because Jose is in Remission right now, right?
He is. He's still getting treatments. He's getting immunotherapy, which is still chemo. It's just a fancy word, the fluffy word for chemo. I call it chemo light. Jose's like, there's nothing light about it. But yeah, he's still going through treatments. He gets treatments once a month, and he will be doing that until about the spring of next year. I think we have like 5 or 6 treatments left. Okay. And so he's still going through all of that. He still has all of his side effects and everything. But I think the biggest concern for, caregivers and running your household is the lack of an action plan.
Mm.
And when you think about getting that help, most people, unless you sit down and really create an action plan and take an assessment of everything that happens in your life,
Right.
whether your kids play soccer, they have after school activities, it's a field trip, doesn't matter, whether it's a spousal relationship or you're caring for an aging parent who has cancer, you have to take an assessment of everything in your life, because people will ask you or say to you, which is super annoying if you ask any cancer patient or caregiver, let me know if you need anything. Let me know if you need anything. No, girl, I need stuff. Come here. Come here. I got a list. Let you know. Are you kidding? And people say it's just a saying. They mean well.
Yeah.
Right? But it is one of the most annoying things in the cancer community when people say that, because it's like, okay, hold please. You know we need stuff.
Right.
Right. Even people who are financially well off, they still need emotional support.
Yes.
They still need a friend.
Yes.
They still need things that care for their mental health. They may need somebody just to know that there's a prayer warrior out there that's got their back.
Right.
And people need things. So I really wanted to change the narrative of how the cancer patient and the caregiver asked for things, because it's not a shameful thing. It's not a less than. It doesn't make you weak. And your friends and family, I'm a firm believer, they do want to help you.
Yes,
they just don't know how.
Yes.
Right. I don't know how you run your household. You don't know how I run my household. I may love you to pieces and we may be really good friends, but you don't know the inner workings of my household.
That's true.
And so really creating that action plan and taking that assessment of what you physically do need, then you can have a top 3, if you will, of things that you can ask for.
And a lot of people don't have, because I've asked people, what do you need? And then do nothing because I don't know what to do. And so you got to tell me exactly what it is you need.
Right.
And, sometimes people say, oh, I need this or I need that. I'm like, how am I going to work that into my schedule?
Be careful if you offer, because somebody might take you up on it.
And that is very true. And you got to figure out. So it's got to be a balance between the two. So if you can give and you're sincere about giving, you know what? Ask the person what exactly it is that I can do for you.
Right.
At the moment, at this time. Because usually if you're saying I need something, you don't need it next week. You need it
now.
Now.
Yeah. And so, having a couple of key phrases or key asks that you can say is important. And having, I say several, gives the asker, your friend or family member, gives them an option to do something that's within their household allowance, their time constraints, their budget, and they get to choose something that they know you need, that they can physically handle. So I had someone, back to that Publix gift card, somebody told me that, hey, I think of you guys more often than I call. And I said, listen, every time you think of us, send me a Publix gift card. It was my very specific ask. I was like, I don't care if it's $20. Dinner's on you. I don't care if it's a cold sandwich from the deli at Publix. Dinner's on you every time you think of us. And he's done it several times. And I'm so grateful. So grateful. And then just to know that somebody really is thinking and cares enough. And I didn't say send me $100 or send me $200. I was like, I don't care if it's just enough to get 2 cold sandwiches from the deli.
And that's great. But they knew exactly what it was that you wanted, right? And so that helps. That helps a lot. That really does help a lot. So do you have any last pieces of advice or words of wisdom that you would love to share with everybody?
I always like to share that I want people to activate their community. And I know it sounds crazy to know that you're the one responsible, even though you're the cancer patient or the caregiver, to be the one that has to think through activating the community.
Right.
But more people will show up for you if you are organized in your thoughts and your needs. And that's not the easiest thing to do when you're trying to navigate cancer. So that's what those resources are about. Learn how to create your action plan. Learn how to get some thoughts down on paper. Get those, if you're having someone take a loved one to treatments, You want to know what the doctor says.
Right.
There's a doctor sheet on there that says, these things. Ask the doctor this, and then have them write it down while they're there.
Right.
Because people don't understand, or give it to the doctor and say, here, write this down for Amy, because Amy needs to know. She's going to call you later. She needs to know. And so, like, really getting organized in that, it does take a lot of time and energy to do it, but no one can do it for you. And that true activation, like, there are so many wonderful people in your circle that will step up if they really understand how to. And I don't want people to feel like it's a weakness to ask for something, because I am of the belief that you're blocking someone else's blessings by not allowing them to bless you.
That is very true. That is very true.
If they ask, let them be a blessing and show them how to do that. And those resources, I mean, they're out on caregiversguidetocancer.com. They're absolutely free. They're downloadable. You can print what you need, use what you need. And they're generic enough that it's not specific to Hodgkin lymphoma or breast cancer. It's not specific to anything. It's really from a caregiver's perspective, not the patient perspective.
Right.
So what does the caregiver need to have on the ready at all times in order to run the household and still maintain their health as well? And that's what we have out on caregiversguidetocancer.com.
Okay. So say that website again so people will know exactly where they need to go to. It's a free downloadable. So say it again.
Caregiversguidetocancer.com. And it has a caregiver action plan, a gratitude journal, a self-care planner for the caregiver, and also a packing guide for those long stays in the hospital. So I share some of my secrets that kept us sane in the hospital. We were in the hospital for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a long time. It's a long time. So, Amy, I just want to let you know that we will be keeping you and Jose in prayer.
Thank you.
I'm going to offer, if you need anything, please let me know. I am there. I love you guys. I love coming out doing the Live Like Locals and vending events that you guys put on. I've met you guys. It's probably been like earlier this summer, and it has been a wonderful experience. And you guys are just givers. You guys are givers. So you need to reap too. Oh.
And I believe that we will. I believe that good comes back to you. I believe that when you are positioned to be a blessing, that blessings come back.
They do.
And yeah.
We just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. And we'll be seeing you soon.
Absolutely. All right. Sending all my love to all your listeners. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.